Hello, writers. Fantastic books and how to write them here. I know I don't make a lot of appearances on this channel. Most of the work that I do for the channel is behind the scenes. I'm the editor. Hello. And my sister, who is a lot more educated on the topic, is the one typically doing the actual content. However, I do want to make sure that as a fellow writer, I do my part and contribute some content as well, so I'll be trying to get out at least one thing a month from here on out. Also, on that note, my stuff will not be nearly as polished as hers. She likes to prepare for these things, which, generally speaking, you probably should. I'm not great about preparing for these things. I just like to kind of go off the cuff and see where it goes. So, let's see where it goes. Today's topic is what gets a person to read your story. So, these are the pretty pictures. Or how about the really snazzy formatting? Can you see that? Yeah, a little hard to see. The title that draws you in. The really great short and sweet synopsis that you can probably barely read. I just drew my favorite book. Or, perhaps most important of all, the lure of hunger. Yeah. That one's heavy. And the answer to all of that is yes, but, caveat, that's not the most important parts. Those parts are all important for drawing the reader in initially, but what gets them to continue reading? So after they've flipped open to the first page and maybe they've looked at the foreword or the dedication, maybe not. Maybe they've even gotten to the first actual page of the book and started reading. But what gets them past that? Fine, let's be fair. What gets them past the first couple pages then? All right, because maybe the pictures are enough for the first couple pages. Let's be fair. Attention spans are not great anymore. Relatability. Okay, and you may be thinking now, okay, relatability. Wanna expound on that a little bit? Absolutely. So, by relatability, I mean the characters. So I'm not talking about a setting you're familiar with or a plot that is similar to an event in your life. I mean, those can be tools too, don't get me wrong, but right now we're going to talk about character relatability because I care way more about characters than where they are, where they're going, etc. I'll let Jen handle that stuff. So, character relatability. Let's use a really familiar example here so that I don't confuse anyone. So, Harry Potter, which I just drew a book of back there. Anyways, Harry Potter. Lots of characters in that series, right? But what makes those characters interesting? It's not just about some of the quirks, like Hermione's bushy hair or Ron having ridiculously bad luck. It's that you can put yourself into their shoes as the reader. Not necessarily all of them. There may be some characters that you can't relate to that much. I have to say that I don't relate all that much to Harry as a character. I think we have certain things in common, but generally speaking, I think I have more in common with Hermione. Perhaps Nymphadora Tonks as well. But as long as there is as long as there is a character that you can connect with, you have something to invest in. And that's what it's really about, right? When a reader opens up that book and starts going through the pages, you want them to get invested in what they're reading. And one of the best ways to get them invested is to make them invest in your characters. Your characters are what's going to drive the plot of the story. Okay? So, whatever places they're going to, whatever places they've come from, whatever events are occurring, the characters are driving that. So it's really important to have characters that your readers can latch onto. Now, I'm not saying pull a Stephanie Meyer and just make somebody a blank slate that you just impress yourself upon like an RPG. No, no, no. Video games got that covered. Don't worry about that. You just want to make them have some things that people can connect with. Make them human. And I mean, that applies even to non-human characters, which probably sounds a little weird, but even if you're working with a character that is an elf or a minotaur or a demon, yeah, now I know I'm reaching there, but even with those characters, because your readers are going to be human, at least for the foreseeable future, you need to inject humanity into your characters, even if they're not actually human. There are some exceptions to this. If you are making a character that isn't sentient, for example, it's just, doesn't have the ability to communicate and very limited intelligence, well, they're probably not a big character in the story anyway, so I wouldn't, really belabor yourself over that. But any character that is sentient, any character that has level of intelligence enough to be communicating with the other characters, you gotta inject some humanity in there. Even your villains. And, depending on what kind of story you're creating, you may not want your villain to be empathetic. You may not want your readers to necessarily feel bad for that villain. There are some villains that you're like, no, they're just bad. I can't feel bad for them. They have done too much wrong, and there's not enough to support that wrong. And that's okay. But there still should be some aspect of them that harkens to humanity. It can be very limited. It can be very small. Teeny tiny. But something. But it's a lot more critical for your primary characters. There are primary and secondary characters, and the primary characters are what's driving your story along. You may have one primary character, you might have 20 primary characters if you're George R.R. Martin. Probably more than 20. So it's really important to focus on those characters and what will connect with your readers. So I'll use my current project as an example as well, just to try to ingrain this into your head if it isn't already. And if you get sick of listening to me talking, well, you know where the stop button is. So I'm working on a project right now, which there is a excerpt of on my blog, so personal plug there. I'll put it in the description, where my primary character is put into a mental institution. Well, they're hospital. Let's call it hospital. He's put into a hospital for a disorder or disease that he doesn't understand yet, doesn't really know anything about, something that seems to be making its rounds. So, okay, you may be thinking, all right, I've never been institutionalized, so there's nothing really sparking for me yet. Okay, well, first of all, good. And secondly, that would be the case for most of us, so I'll continue. What can make this character relatable, though, is the feelings that they have in this situation. So, sure, you've never been institutionalized, but maybe you have gone through a period of anxiety or depression in your life. So as this character, this is what the character is going through right now. They're depressed, they're anxious, they don't know what's going on, they feel lost. Maybe the lost part is what you can relate to, right? You've gone through some period in your life where you felt like you didn't really know where you were going, you didn't really know what was going on, maybe you didn't know what you wanted. try to give you another example here. There's another character, another primary character within the story that is very quiet, barely talks. And he seems kind of apathetic on the outside. Like he doesn't have a lot of emotional responses to things, unless it's something severe. There is a scene where he is enraged when he witnesses another employee abusing one of the patients, and they get into a fight. So, for some people, a stoic character like that, a character that is very much hiding behind a wall, doesn't really trust people, is very closed off, that could be relatable. Because there are readers out there that are very guarded with their emotions. It's not all that uncommon in today's society, unfortunately. I think we're making progress, but it's out there. And the people who are like that, they need to connect with characters too. It may be more difficult for them, but it's still important. So those might not be the best examples, but hopefully that illustrated my point a little further. If you have any questions on the topic of relatability, if you have any counters to any of the things that I've said, if you just want to chat, comment down below. Feel free, have at it, and I hope this was helpful. Till next time.